When the Warriors have both Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler in the lineup, they are 20-2. And in those games, Steph has basically been at peak form, averaging 28.5 points on over 66% true shooting, including a recent 3-game stretch where he gave the Grizzlies 52, then the Lakers 37, then finally the Nuggets 36, all in big wins. When he's playing like this, the Warriors are almost unbeatable, and with only 2 weeks until the playoffs, the NBA is running out of time to find an answer. It almost feels disrespectful to call Steph the greatest shooter of all time, just because we've heard it so often, and there are so many more layers to his offensive game. But I can't stress enough just how much of an outlier Steph is as a shooter. We've seen all-time great spot-up shooters. We've seen all-time great movement shooters. We've seen all-time great pull-up shooters. We've seen all-time great long-range shooters. We've seen all-time great contested shooters. And not only does Steph check all of these boxes, he's arguably the best ever in all of these categories. This season in particular, he's shooting over 43% on catch and shoot threes, so the basis of his game is finding ways to get those shots off. And that's where the off-ball movement comes in. He spends a lot of time on offense just freelancing and running around, looking for even the smallest window to catch and shoot. He never stops moving, he knows exactly where to be and when to be there, and that's probably the biggest challenge with defending him, because leaving him open is like giving up a layup, and that puts so much stress on all 5 players. If he catches the ball with space, the nearest defender is going to sell out to make sure he doesn't get a shot off, to which he'll counter with quick and smart decisions. Typically that means making the right extra pass, but if there's nobody to give the ball to, he'll just quickly attack off the catch, where he happens to be a pretty good shot creator. And if your answer to Steph's movement is to stay as close to him as possible and overplay the 3, that's when he'll dart into a cut for easy offense at the rim. So when Steph's running around like this, there's literally zero room for error. Here's one against the Magic where Paolo Banchero's chasing him along the perimeter, and when Steph finds some space up top, he up fakes Paolo out of the play before stepping into a wide open jumper. The scariest part is that you never know when or where he's going to relocate. This time he's slowly walking up the court, and Jalen Wells is completely blindsided by a quick handoff while Edey's too low to step out and get a contest. This means the offense has an outlet at all times. If multiple defenders follow Jimmy into the paint and leave Draymond open, he's not looking to shoot. Instead, he's going to immediately find Steph with a handoff with nobody in position to pick up the ball. So Steph's gravity actually makes Draymond a floor spacer. When Jimmy attacks in isolation, Şengün helps in the paint. Again, Draymond's gonna immediately hand it off to Steph, and Şengün's late jumping out on the shot. Handoffs are one of their go-to actions. Of course, if Steph receives the screen with space to shoot, you better hope he misses, and that means the second defender is almost always going to jump out to the ball, to which he'll get it to the short roll for easy offense. In the event that his defender successfully runs him off the line and a second defender isn't there right away, that's when he'll turn the corner and attack space on a drive, where he's nothing short of brilliant. So some defenders will try to avoid the action altogether by fronting the side of the screen, and that's when he's going to cut backdoor for a wide open layup. I actually think it gets overlooked how much he's able to pressure the rim as a cutter. Because he's defended so tightly, something the Warriors love to do is run him off of back screens, and if he draws extra help to the paint, he's instantly finding the open man for a quality look. These back screens often lead to miscommunications. Like on this one, Keon Johnson's only worried about not giving him an inch of room, while Cam Johnson's expecting a switch. So when he cuts through, there's nobody left to defend the corner, as Jimmy takes his time and sets for a wide open 3. But even switching causes its own set of issues. PJ Washington executes this one to perfection, and sure, Steph doesn't have an opening, but look at Jimmy and how Max Christie's pinned on the wrong side. So when Jimmy turns and cuts, there's nobody to stop him. Of course, the Warriors can also reverse these actions and start Steph in the paint before running him off a down screen, which creates a new but similar set of issues. They'll often run these in an empty corner where there's less defenders in position to help, and that often means it's one guy who has to chase him around the screen, then make sure he doesn't create any separation. So again, there are lots of miscommunications. Most defenses want to switch, but if that switch isn't perfect, chances are they're giving up a layup. And I'd like to take a moment to appreciate just how good of a passer Draymond is and how much chemistry he's built with Steph. Part of what makes this off-ball offense so impossible to defend is that he's an absolute master of exploiting any defensive errors. Sometimes the Warriors will set these down screens in the middle of the floor instead of in the corner, and it's basically the same thing all over again. Not only do you have to worry about Steph running off a screen and either getting a three or freeing up a cutter, you have to worry about him cutting where Draymond's gonna find him for a layup. In addition to the down screens, another staple of this Golden State offense are these lateral cross screens. And sometimes they'll actually pair both together. On this one, Jimmy's setting a down screen while Post is setting a cross screen, and notice how before Steph gets to Post, he recognizes that Cade's getting ready to jump out on a switch. So instead of using it, he stops short and Draymond finds him for a wide open three. Another thing you'll often see them do is set two cross screens back to back, and again, this puts Steph in a position to make a read. He could use both, or he could use just one and cut down the middle of the lane for points at the rim. The way he balances the threat of his shooting with those timely cuts is a thing of beauty. Just when you think you have him covered, he's darting into an entirely different spot on the floor, and like I said earlier, even if his defender successfully runs him off the line without putting two on the ball, all that does is put him in a position to attack open space off the catch. So the best option to limit Steph as a scorer is to have that second defender jump out to the ball, leaving the roller all by himself. Many of these cross screens start by entering the ball into the pinch post, and this is where the Warriors will get into their signature split actions. To make things even more difficult, you'll often see these plays start with Steph setting a back screen for a cutter to clear the top of the key before sprinting off a cross screen to find that space as a shooter. I can't stress enough how little the room for error is. Sometimes it looks like the defense does everything to perfection, only for him to make some absurdly difficult off-balance jumper. And that's why his movement causes so much panic. Just a subtle back screen and curl pulls two defenders with him and leaves Jimmy with all of the space in the world. Even on a play like this where he runs around Draymond's post up and it looks as if everything's covered, notice how Vooch is cheating over to the paint in fear of Steph's cut. That means a skip pass to Post in the corner is available and they've got an open three. Another action they'll often run from the pinch post position is a flare screen, and it sort of goes without saying, but yes, this puts the exact same stress on the defense. Just take a look at this play. When Steph runs off a flare and KCP chases him over the top, Cole Anthony's so worried about the cut that he drops back to the paint, and that's all it takes for Podziemski to pop into open space for a three. We've never seen a player wreak havoc on entire defenses like this without ever touching the ball, and there's a pretty good chance we'll never see it again. The combination of sharp movement, outlier shooting, and ability to play off the catch makes him a near impossible cover, and that's actually been dialed up to a new level this season in particular. If we take a look at the amount of shots of his that have been assisted on since his first MVP year, for the first time, more than 60% of his shots are coming off of an assist. And if we also look at the amount of his shot attempts that are coming from behind the arc, this is also a career high in percentage of shots from three at 62.5%. So in a way, this version of Steph is basically the ultimate movement shooter. Their entire offense is built around getting him open away from the ball, and with the way he's performed recently, that seems to be a pretty good formula. Since making the trade for Jimmy, the Warriors have scored a remarkable 125 points per 100 possessions with Steph on the floor. That's more than the Celtics with Tatum, the Pacers with Halliburton, and the Cavs with Mitchell. Think about that for a second. Jimmy's been a huge addition, but hasn't even been a 20 point per game scorer with the team. Draymond's an elite passer, but is somebody who teams are actively wanting to shoot the ball. Moody, Pajemski, and Post have been reliable, but don't really create much offense, and Hield is one of the streakiest players in the league. Steph has this team performing better than all-time great offensive units as the only guy who can consistently score over 20 points, while the entire system is built around getting him open, which then opens up everything for everyone else. And I haven't even gotten into everything he's still capable of doing with the ball. Whenever a defense is able to successfully stall the motion part of the offense, he'll start operating more like a traditional point guard, initiating action. That's where the off-the-dribble shooting comes in. On the season, he's shooting about 38% on pull-up threes, while landing 7th in the NBA at 6 attempts per game. And this is a shot he can get to out of any situation, whether that means off balance, through a smothering contest, or of course from extended range. Most of them come off of high ball screens, which is where he does a large chunk of his on-ball creation overall. If he sees drop coverage, or that second defender's even a fraction of a second late getting out, he's pulling the trigger from deep. So just like when he's running around screens without the ball, the defense is put into a constant lose-lose situation. If that big jumps out to the ball but doesn't completely commit, he'll turn the corner and use his agility to attack them in space. He isn't quite as explosive as he was during his prime. He's still a threat to drive though, and his touch as a finisher remains incredible. There are only 2 ways to take away both the 3 and the drive. One is to put 2 on the ball, and he'll find the short roller every time, so the Warriors are constantly playing with an advantage. The second is to switch the action, and that's when they'll clear out for Steph to play one-on-one and attack a more favorable matchup. His isolation game is simple but effective. At all times, he's hunting for space to get to the 3-point shot. Then as soon as a defender presses up too aggressively, he's getting around them on a drive, where he isn't just a threat to get to the rim, but a threat to get to the mid-range, where he's been extremely effective this year. Then if he can't get to the 3, doesn't have anywhere to drive, instead of forcing up a bad shot, he's just going to look for the closest teammate to pass and quickly relocate, bringing us right back to square one with the off-ball mastery. All things considered, Steph's still on a short list of the most valuable players this league has to offer. I'm not sure if the Jimmy trade lit a fire under him, but since that point, he's been about as close to his prime self as you can possibly hope for. And with the way he's playing, along with Jimmy's contributions and Draymond's defensive genius, the Warriors are peaking at the best possible time. As things currently stand, it seems like nobody has an answer, and they're looking like a team that everyone should hope to avoid in the playoff bracket. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, and turn my post notifications on to be first on more content. If you're interested in my more in-depth research, make sure to check out the Hoop Venue podcast and my social media profiles. You can find those links in the description. Feel free to let me know down in the comments what you think of Curry. As always, I hope you all have a great day, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.